and talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. So today I'm going to be talking about medical electronics and how to stimulate the vagus nerve in particular for inflammatory conditions. And so going back to the song here, it's Kualana vale kuwa wahanale eni hiane ini kapale e hola pi mana loe me hipu e no ni kapo kahone mai no ke kai me alai mai e ama e hoi mai no kaualai pili kaualoko kaualana o hanale. Get the vibe going. Oh, it's been so cold. Yesterday morning for Hawaii, it was exceptionally cold. In fact, I picked up a hitchhiker on the road and she said, "Wow, man, that was really, really cold." And yeah, it was. So, we have the rains here, we have the sun here, and we also get the cold, as you know, on Mauna Kea. And so today we're talking about the medical electronics and how to stimulate the nerves in the body, and especially for inflammatory dystonia type of diseases. And so we're going to be looking at vagus nerve activation tips in particular, and 3 simple ways to stimulate that nerve to reduce inflammation for any dystonia by boosting your vagus nerve energy naturally. Now, dystonia is a huge wide group. We're going to look at that in a moment, and also of diseases from panic attacks to a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, it's all from this vagus nerve that travels down here. So we're going to talk about that in a moment. So we're going to learn how to turn back on the parasympathetics so you can disconnect from the flight or fight rat race. That's when our solar plexus is all blocked. That's when our digestion is off. That's when we get palpitations in the heart. That's when we have asthma and different breathing conditions. They're all controlled by this esoteric, and I'm going to borrow some stuff from P. Manly Hall here. Whoops, how do we do this? Manly P. Hall, rather. And we're going to be talking about especially this nerve group here. Now, I'm hoping, yeah, it kind of comes through. Sorry, guys, it's not going to work, but it's talking about how these nerves travel down the front of the body. And, going back to this, if you look at the history of the vagus nerve and how it's been occulted, and that's all part of how to learn to discern what you're reading, and from these medical papers. And I'm going to borrow from Scientific American today an article that they call shock medicine. And these guys, shock medicine, right? So this is an article from that I've garnered some of the stuff, but I really want to show you with clarity what you need to do when you're looking at assessing these, quote, scientific articles. Back in the day when I was young, from about age 12 or 13, I had Scientific American every month. And it was like, I read that thing, and I remember actually plagiarizing a whole copy on the on one of the microbes of amoebas for biology class, and I got an A for it. And I thought at the time, yeah, I can't plagiarize word for word, but I did. And it was like an amazing magazine back then. Since then, like all of the stuff that's public, it's been highly infiltrated and changed around. So heads up on that stuff. As you know, in this world of health, not all that you read is about health. So advanced bioelectric Let me just turn this off here so I can read it. Medicine and microcurrent therapy reduce inflammation with vagus nerve stimulation. Now, we've got a lot of experience in that, and I'm going to show you how I hit upon this back in 2006 or something. And it's made a huge difference to the way that I approach the whole training that I give for microcurrent. So, moving to the next slide. You know, melatonin, right? If you don't get that orange sunlight, and we're going to talk about this and other stuff in terms of like vagus nerve, that orange light at nighttime, the melatonin doesn't get turned on. When that doesn't get turned on, you don't get sleep. You've had too much blue light, etc., etc. So, you know, if you've got a good night's, if you still feel tired even after a good night's sleep, if that's me talking to me now, I'm reasonably healthy, is because I've been in bed for too long, right? And I'm lethargic, and I need a cold shower, right? And so, but this is for you if this is what's happening to you. You may have cravings that sabotage you from making healthy decisions, and you know, it's like cracking that coconut, which I do every other day. We drink the water, and the coconut water is just delicious. And these are all fresh coconuts that friends harvest from the trees here. And then we take that out, and we take the coconut meat out of there and make it into green smoothers, which I have today's version. And in fact, I'm going to taste it and tell you what it's tasting like. Now, this has avocado, it has greens, fresh greens in it. It has orange juice and a little lilac. It's kind of like a little crunchy. It's kind of like an ice cream, or sorbet. Yummy. Thank you, Randy. Wonderful. I want to give a shout out to my partner Lindy, who sits beside me during these shows, and she keeps like notes and talks about what she, you know, keeps it all in them, the timestamps and everything, and it makes it all possible. This is not an easy adventure, this putting a show together like this, guys. It takes me about 3 days of research and laying out the slides and everything else. So, you know, this is what I want to give to you for free, you know, and maybe one day you'll choose me to be your health coach, but I'm giving you out stellar information. So let's move on. So if that's you in this situation and you want, you know, you're sabotaging yourself, it's time to break this cycle. And I'm going to milk this one, this slide here. Emergency alert. I was at this stage 4 weeks ago, is it now? I think it was January the 13th, yeah, probably about 4 weekends ago, preparing for this show, for this wellness show. And this is kind of like where my head is at with this. And this emergency alert came up on my phone here, and it's going beep, beep, beep. And I'm going like ballistic missile threat. Well, if that's inbound to Hawaii, it's not going to make much difference. If it hits me, it hits me, right? I'm going to carry on. And I feel, and I've been carrying on bringing information, wellness, and health coaching tips to you for people for 20 years, 30 years. I've been in this field. And you need to understand a little bit about my background in terms of like how I'm going to approach talking about this esoteric vehicle, the vagus nerve, right? Which is the one that is called the traveler because it moves down into the different organs. It's the parasympathetics that it works the heart. It keeps the lungs going. It keeps the spleen, the stomach, and everything else going, even when we're asleep, right? And so to get that back on is important. So for you, it's incredibly important that you break these old sabotage negative habits. And in my wellness manifesto that I put together for the January, just released actually, and I'll talk about it right at the end of the show a little bit, I have detailed a step-by-step process that guides you through how you can obtain and how you need to look at what's happening in the world and how you need to personally and how you can personally attain that by getting really clear on your vision and doing the baby steps to enacting it. So break those old cycles because they aren't working. They're clearly not working politically, educationally, in the arts, everything. Nothing is working food-wise, you know, being torn away from the land, being torn away from the ocean, having to pay for water. All of this is clearly not working. And the way to break that cycle is to disconnect from it. We've talked about this in previous shows. I'm going to milk this emergency alert because that's what they do to us. They thrust this fear down at every opportunity they can get. And incidentally, the vagus nerve, because of the way it collects energy from the universe, is very susceptible to that. So, long term, short term, to achieve peak performance and for life, right? And so it's not about necessarily living longer, but it's living healthier during the time that we are here on planet. So it's like, maybe you're going to, traditionally your family lives to such and such an age, right? It's about breaking those cycles and really realizing that all of our genetics is epigenetically controlled. In other words, is controlled by the environment and our thoughts. So my wellness ninja manifesto, please excuse me, that is what I detail, is the step-by-step process that you can get the right mindset. And that's one of the things that's been destroyed with blue light and all of the false information that's thrust upon us. So again, it's not just about the daily greens for alkalinity or natural energy boosts. Sure, they work, but if they're not in conjunction with other things, it's not going to work. And when you're coming from this old paradigm of, say, whoops, I think it's the next slide after that. Hang on a moment. Yeah, of pills and supplements and diets and exercise dogmas, those don't work. And the reason why the supplements don't work is because they have to be, it's best to have them naturally unprocessed in a green smoothie. And talking about green smoothies, over the last 6 months or 7 months now, it's made a huge difference to my health. Now, a little background on me. I've been in the sound healing field as an expert in that field since the late 80s. And I developed this sound therapy, sacred geometry sound therapy environment there in the middle there, called Dreamweaver. Now, during that time of that development and developing training programs for people, we did a lot of experimentation with sound. And so I developed new models, and I talk about them in the Wellness Manifesto, develop new models as to how sound is being affected onto the body. And in this case, I can't do it, I can't point to it, but on the blue bed there, that ripples with the sound. So you're getting a vibroacoustic or cymatic sound print into the body. Now, why I'm telling you this is because all the different wavelengths in sound affect different parts of the body, simply because they resonate, the higher frequencies resonate with the smaller tissues, and the longer frequencies resonate with the bigger bones, say, right? So when you start to look at sound healing is one of the ways that you can activate the vagus nerve, and we'll look at that later. But I have this expertise in that and an understanding of watching people doing shamanic experiences, helping them move through abuse situations, helping them propel them through visualizing into different things that they desire to do and ways of approaching it. It was an amazing tool for that. The sacred geometry part about it is because it resonates to specific numbers and geometries. We're going to look at that in conjunction with light in a moment too. So as I said, it's not about pills and supplements and all of the dogmas. It really is about living and enjoy and being happy, right? And so long we've got all of the oxytocin and all of those in balance in the body, everything kind of like clicks along. So, a lot of people have trained with me, and like really interesting people have come into the training, and it's really helped me solidify my theories, my approach to health coaching, and to have these exceptional people feeding back into the system, and so that I can continually improve and language it even better. And I think that's one of the expertises that I bring to this, is the ability to play with this from a position of research. And you know, research and play to me is very similar. As an ex-development engineer, it's been my path all my life, right? And so it's about that sort of stuff. Now, I really want you, and that's why I began with that slide with the sunset. I really want you to recreate your life by improving your vitality, your strength, and your wellness, your health. And I've talked about this in previous episodes, but the importance of a way of sunlight on our body. And when we don't get that sunlight into our eyes, when we're not getting sunlight or natural light, then things shut down. And one of the things that shut down, of course, is the vagus nerve as well. So we're going to look at that specifically too. So let's call this reverse engineering this da-da-da crashing cymbals, Wagnerian music in the background, stomping feet of some Frankenstein monster that's been associated with electricity. Huh? What am I talking about? I'm talking about Hollywood, right? And I'm also talking about the way that they chose to title this article, which is an incredibly important facet of medicine. That if this was deployed around the planet as a way of helping people, it would change the face of medicine in a few years. Now, instead, these people that write these things and all of these people that control all this stuff, they call it shock medicine. Okay, it gets your attention, but it also creates that fear, and that's their job. Now, incidentally, that little white thing there on just above my head there, that's a vagus nerve, quote, pacemaker. And this is like the way that things are going in the medical field right now, electrically. The electrical medicine stuff that's all been doing by implants. Now, implants to me are dumb. It means you've got to go into hospital, you've got to go in to have surgery, you're relying on something that's not natural to the body, so you're enslaved again. You've got like this another mark to your name and your body. And it's just plain dumb, especially when you know the data that I have and the experience that I've had with people. And that's what I'm going to share with you. So there's that pacemaker that we were talking about, and it's right on top of those wires, and cords feed up into the vagus nerve, up into the neck here. So again, more reverse engineering. We don't need to do it this way. So shock medicine or not, let's move on. Now, the illustration of the woman here does show the vagus nerve. This is going down here. It's going down into the stomach and into the intestines and into the spleen. It feeds all into the lungs, into the heart. It feeds all of that automatic energy into the body. And without it, none of our systems would work. And when it's shut down, that's when we get a huge, wide range of different diseases. So there's different ways of electrical stimulation. Deep brain stimulation to the head, vagus nerve, splenic nerve, etc. And today we're going to focus on the vagus nerve stimulation. So discover and show you 3 simple ways to stimulate it. And learn how to turn back on the parasympathetics. So, and this is the important part, so you can disconnect from the flight or fight rat race. And that's what it is. That's where they want to hold you. So they can do that in many, many different ways. Horror movies, TV, all the fear and drama and accidents that are happening and everything that's around the world, and keeping you focused on that and keeping you so you're in that flight or fight situation. Last thing, they want you to be calm and collected. So this is the guy, Kevin J. Tracy, is president of the Feinstein Institute for Medical Research at the North Shore LU Health System of Manhasset, New York, where he directs the Laboratory of Biomedical Science. He's a professor of molecular medicine, neurosurgery at Holstra North Shore LU School of Medicine. Okay, let's take a breath. What I'm about to say, with all due respect to Kevin Tracy and all of the minions like him, is that the reality of these guys is that they're completely disconnected from our bodies. They're completely disconnected from actually serving us. The only thing that they are really serving is the money machine. And I talk about that extensively in the Wellness Ninja Manifesto. These guys are a hazard to us. I'm a brain surgeon who's fascinated by inflammation. Along with my laboratory colleagues, what the rats and the baboons and all of the other ones that they've been testing on, I examine molecules that cause inflammation so we can discover methods of alleviating pain, swelling, and tissue damage that is a consequence of many diseases. Well, this is so effing sick. When there are systems out there that do this naturally, what the heck are we doing listening or even spending time, let alone our money and our life, in becoming enslaved to these systems with implants like these guys are designing? So there are now, there's a lot of research being done by the pharmaceuticals, because they're realizing that the pills and the pills and the meds are not working like they used to, and there's all sorts of side effects. But hey, God, we can put a little electrical blah blah in somebody and keep them ticking along, and we've got them coming back every checkup. It's so fucking, excuse me, I didn't say that, but it is really sick. So reverse engineering this stuff. This is what we can get. Vagus nerve, the vagus nerve, when it's shut down, and it's usually because of lack of energy and exercise and stuff like that, we get this whole wide range of situations: palpitations, sweating, shortness of breath, wheezing, asthma, tremors, hiccups, right? Because they're all controlling these kind of like, well, heart, you can control your heartbeat. You certainly control your lungs, right? But when you're sleeping, you're not going, unless you've got palpitations, whatever going on. And it's automatically controlled. Your digestion is automatically controlled. But when that vagus nerve is disconnected, or the energy coming down it isn't sufficient, then you get all of these symptoms: abdominal distension, IBS, diarrhea, frequent urination, arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, weakness, lethargy, fatigue, low energy, dizziness, headaches, sleep disorders, fainting, decreased sexual activity, diabetes, and guess what? Panic attacks. Whole huge wide range of stuff that one way or another we all suffer from those at different degrees. And some of them, or one or two of them, right? Maybe you can relate. All of this is completely controllable without putting implants or going to your doctors. So here we go. Here's some tips. Let's turn on those parasympathetics, get that vagus nerve working. Sunlight, laying in the sunlight. You get electrical charges all over the body that are feeding into the nervous system. Yogic breathing. In the Ashtanga yoga I do, there's a yogic breath called the Ujjayi breath. You close off the roof of the mouth a little bit. You create that sort of snort. Singing. Singing is a wonderful way of vibrating all of these molecules and all of the nervous system in the chest here. You've got the vagus nerve coming into this area in here. And it basically shoots straight down. It's basically like this. So singing does this. Sound therapy, like the table work that I was doing, or singing bowls, they all connect you into that place. Exercise, huge. And actually, the list goes on and on and on. But I wanted to share with you now something that I discovered kind of like by accident. Let's see if I can find it. Yes, here it is. And when I was working on this early back in '06. So let's take a quick look at this video, parts of it, and I'm going to do the energy all the way down to my thumb. The process is called referral. Not leaving much skin unturned, so to speak, brushing it all that I can. The fingers and the hands have a lot of nerve endings in them, so there's a lot of communication between the scanner and the brain for the fingertips and the nerves, as there is everywhere else. And like here on this skin, for instance, I can feel the nerve trickling all the way down into my thumb. It's driving the energy all the way down to my thumb. The process is called referral. Sticky in here. Beautiful day in Hawaii. The ocean. Just look at that ocean. So beautiful. Everywhere that it can. A lot of the stuff will stiffen mass and open it up a little bit. There we go. A lot of this is easy to do because you can just stimulate the body, and you can stimulate everywhere. So that stimulates the meridians, all of the organs underneath it, and this is a powerful way. Now, I didn't know it at that time much about the vagus nerve. In fact, all I knew was that it was somehow connected to, this parasympathetics and some of the other, what we call Ninja 2 techniques that I teach in the coaching. And the bottom line of it is that we can super quickly take care of a huge range of different problems. And so let's look at what those might be. Whoops, I've lost. Oh no, guys. There we go. Yeah, all of these problems here, right? Just by increasing the electrical connection. And that's how we do it. So why, let me give you just a couple of minutes. Back when I was a kid, I was like 13, 14, I became really interested in esoteric stuff. I was going to a Rudolf Steiner school, I was reading Rudolf Steiner stuff, and later on, and there was a big gap, and then I discovered in the library, in the public library, close to home, and I would not tell my mom because she didn't like me studying this esoteric stuff, despite sending me to a Rudolf Steiner school. And I would sit in there and I would just like go through these amazing manuscripts that were in the library then. They were all subsequently removed. And then I would tell my mom I'd been with friends, and then my friends would say, hey, what did you find in the library? And I'd tell her all these stories. Well, one of the guys that I read about, of course, was P. Manly Hall. And when you read through this stuff, it is quite obvious how much of the way that our body and our systems work has been occulted. And then they call it like initiation rites before you know what's really going on, and then another initiation rite. You know what that's led to is all the pedophilia and stuff that's going on that's being exposed right now, thankfully, finally, after how many hundreds and thousands of years. And so in this book, when you read about, all of these scholars over the centuries who've studied the vegetative dystonia and the vagus nerve, and they all have like this different theories on how it works. And the prevalent theory that gets recorded in history, because history is only the books that are left by the people that have won the wars or taken over the countries and indoctrinated the new country with, those people are the ones that who wrote that stuff. If they were writing to the system, then of course they were still alive. But the ones that dared to stand up against or express a different way of looking at this thing all get shouted down. And it's across the spectrum. It's medical, it's yogic, it's everything. What I'm going to say right now is fundamental. When all of that study that I did, and this was years, and then later when I was at university taking engineering, I was in the stacks reading this stuff in the university. I've studied esoteric since I was 14, 15, right? All my life. I specialized in that sound healing work. 30 years I've been doing this. I've come to the conclusion, and this makes sense. And if this makes sense to you, think about it. The vagus nerve is the same as a Kundalini. When that vagus nerve gets shut down, one has Kundalini type rising events. Now, the yogics and most people say, oh, Kundalini is dangerous. I've been having Kundalini experiences now, I come to think of it, because of the neck and back injuries for all my life. Nobody knew what they were. I would be like in spasms and shaking on the floor sometimes from the stuff, or coming out of a different yoga pose. And that's what it is. It's just the activation of this vagus nerve. Suddenly it's like it's alive again, and the body's in shock, and then it relaxes, everything becomes normal, the whooshing in the ears disappear, and you come back. But during that experience, it's like, wow, you're really way out there. So, yeah, so sunlight, yogic breathing, singing, sound therapy, exercise, and of course, microcurrent stimulation. So, a little bit about my Wellness Ninja Manifesto. Been getting some great reviews from people. Thank you. This is for you if you're what you're doing isn't working. You know, you get to a certain health plateau. I think out of the box, and I will help you think out of the box too, in terms of like how to move through and coach you. The shocking hiding in plain sight, truth bombs that are a foundation to understand if you really care about your health and longevity. What you get caught up in, the research for health trap, and that's what I'm actually referring to. Look at the authors, look at who's funding them, look at the stuff that's been done on it, and look at why they've printed this article from this slant. It's all of that stuff. Everybody that's basically, as far as I'm concerned, I have like a thing about this thing. Excuse me, guys, but you know, if you're working in the medical system, it ain't right. In fact, it's really wrong. And in my opinion, it's criminal. So, you know, I just understand that about the health system. I'm not the first person to expose all of this. You know, tons and tons of people, Dr. McCullough, you know, the Health Ranger, you know, lots of people are exposing this. But so one thing is to tap into an endless supply of antioxidants, which is virtually free, which is the electricity coming off the electrodes of one of these devices. So pretty cool, huh? Now, in the Wellness Manifesto, I talk about how to set your goals, and there's a self-development course in there. So, you know, it's work. It's a manifesto. And if this is for you to work with me, then there's a link at there, and we can connect and move on from there. So, looking forward to sharing this with you. Now, the place to get that, yeah, let's do that. The place to get that, let's turn this one off for a moment, and then we'll finish up, is this page here. And it's on my website, ebodyfusion.com. And I think I can scroll up. Yeah, there we go. And, you know, this is the manifesto, and it's about the manifesto. And I think in here, yeah, we got about the manifesto, and that's the link that you can get to download it from. Cool. So back to the slides, and there we go. So, am I going the wrong way, guys? Oh, previous episodes. I'm not going to read through the list of the episodes here, but you know, if you want to freeze frame this slide here, you can see episode 1 was you know, about me and my clients, and as a wellness coach, or actually health coach, my best health tips, etc. So they're all there. Just freeze frame this, and then you can look at them. Also, what I do is I take snips out of each one of these episodes. There's 6 to 8, maybe 10 snips that I take out, like 1 or 2 segments. And if you go to that previous page, you'll start seeing those snips as well. So they will show up on your timeline. So back to finishing out here with Ka'ua Loku. And this is a real fun Hawaiian piece that I entered with, and there's some chords that I have to do in the second half, which I'm gonna miss because I haven't quite got that one yet. But it's a pleasure bringing this to you guys every Saturday. It's you know, it's a wonderful to share. You know, 30 years of experience and thoughts and happenings and health and vibration, and it's wonderful music from Hawaii. Kaualana waleeka uaho hanale inihia heni ina hapali he ho pili me kaluae me hipu ho enonika oli ka ho ene mai no ke kai me alai mai he ho I mai no ka ua lai pili ka ua loko ka ua lana o hanale ka ua lana vale e ka ua o hanale he ni a he nehi ni a pali he ho ho pili I me kualoa e me hipo he no ni ka poli ka ho ene mai no e kakai me ala e maana e ho e mai no ka ua lai pili ka ua loku ka ua lana o hanale ka ua loku ka ua loku ka ua lana o hanale. Yeah, aloha, have a great week, and God bless. You know, whenever you're trying to change your habits, it's really important to get really super clear on the vision of what it is that you want to create. Read my manifesto. I'll show you step by step the process that you can do it. Aloha. Namaste.